We grow up idolizing heroes. Some we watch on the big screen. Others we read about in books. But some of them are the ones we get to control. The protagonists we play as in video games shape how we see the world. Their struggles, their victories, their failures, each step of their journey quietly becomes a part of our own. Ever since I could hold a controller in my hands, or a keyboard I guess, to make sure I'm rushing B and clutching the dub in SpongeBob's Truth or Square, there's been countless heroes that I've journeyed alongside. In this video, I wanted to talk about one that has genuinely stuck with me, whether for the lessons he learned, the courage he taught, or just the way he is. I'll get one thing out of the way. The title of this video is kind of a cop-out because I'm not talking about any one specific iteration of the character. For anyone that doesn't know, the Legend of Zelda series is less like a strict linear plot from point A to point B, and more like an anthology series. It's an oversimplification, but the games are relatively self-contained. You don't need to play Twilight Princess to understand Breath of the Wild, except sometimes they're connected. Sometimes there's 3 timelines, sometimes the hero is a train conductor. Don't think about it too hard, or this will become a 4-hour video essay on some NPC that has one line. But outside of a couple exceptions, the hero you play as is a whole-ass different person for each game. Even though they all look kind of the same and have the same canon name, Zelda is crazy. But could you imagine if Zelda was a girl? Every version of Link handles their role as a hero differently. Some are thrown into adventure, some are chosen, some choose to follow their destiny themselves, and some are all of those and also crazy chefs. My first Zelda game was Phantom Hourglass, which, funnily enough, is one of the only Zelda games that is a direct sequel to a previous entry, which I had zero knowledge of. I was like 7, dude, cut me some slack. But that naivety was a blessing in disguise. I didn't really care about the controls being non-traditional because this was my baseline. Link in this game is pretty young, which was appealing to Kid James. I know plot-wise he's like fresh out of Wind Waker, but I didn't know that at the time. Again, I was 7, but seeing this kid thrust into this world all on his lonesome and just getting up and going, okay, how can I help? Or was pretty inspiring to me. No questioning if he was up to the task, no self-doubt or anxieties about the what if, just having the courage to pick up a sword, squiggle on a map, and keep moving forward. And being able to return to the Temple of the Ocean King over and over again was kind of a cool way to have a physical memento of the progress that you were making. As Link faced challenge after challenge, the temple opened up more and more, showing that each hardship, each victory was all worth something. And it was all building up to a climactic fight against this guy. Also, the old man turned into a whale. There's probably something symbolic in there, but like, I was a kid. This game planted a seed more than anything, and I wouldn't get my first real experience with Link until a few years and a move across the world later. Enter 2011. I'd moved from England to Australia a year or 2 prior, and I was pretty lonely, save for Club Penguin. More on that in this video. But more importantly than childhood loneliness, the Nintendo 3DS released. I remember begging my parents to get it for my birthday. I loved that thing. I don't have my OG 3DS anymore, but I do have this, and the ambassador certificate to prove it. In June of 2011, I did so many chores that I was able to scrounge together enough pocket money to buy exactly 1 new game for my 3DS. And there was only one that I had my heart set on.
It really is the most definitive version of one of gaming's most defining games. I'm giving it 10 out of 10 rubber chickens.
It's just a wonderful game, so I'm giving it 9.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D blew my mind when it was revealed. The only exposure I'd had to any of the traditional Zelda games at the time was being traumatized by the Ben Drowned creepypasta in 2010, which is a whole other can of worms that I won't get into right now because the whole Ben Drowned story is cool as f*** and deserves its own deep dive somewhere down the line. But seeing my boy go from this to this, on this and not this, was like, man. The thing I want to focus on here is the character of Link. Much like my experience with Phantom Hourglass, he's a kid that's had the responsibility of saving the kingdom thrust directly on him, and he's just cool with that, and he rolls with it. More so than Phantom Hourglass, he's almost chosen by destiny to become the hero the world needs. This Link goes through a lot, and it stuck with me. Despite getting eaten by a tree, a fish, nearly a Dodongo, growing up in like 3 seconds, growing down in like 3 seconds in reverse, dealing with ghosts, dealing with dragons, dealing with the water temple and whatever this is, and then some grandmas, and then Ganondorf, and then losing all of that in favor of being sent back to his childhood and losing the one friend that he had through it all, causing him to become depressed and search for her, save another land that might be an allegory for death, and then grow resentful and become a teacher to an emo wolf descendant of him, and then Okay, basically this guy goes through a lot. And at the time, so did I. Not quite on that level, but like, yeah. Despite all of that, he still kept moving forward, facing each new challenge with a couple of grunts and an arsenal of items, and also Navi is there. He's handed his destiny, sure, he has the Triforce of Courage, alright, but he keeps showing up. Seeing him get up time after time and face each new threat head on was nothing short of inspiring. I still remember climbing the stairs of Ganondorf's tower to the final boss for the first time, and the sheer excitement I felt at the idea that my journey with Link, as Link, was coming to an end. I'm not ashamed to admit it, he inspired me to face a lot of my tougher battles when I was younger, and still has somewhat of an effect on me today. Climbing the tower was more than beating the game, it was proving something to myself. Like Link, I was thrown into a new world, but by pushing forward, I was proving that I was stronger than I thought. Proving that I too had the courage to overcome the challenges in my own life. And as I navigated growing up and starting high school and all that comes with that, I found myself falling back on the lessons I'd learnt through my time in Hyrule, whether consciously or not. Ocarina's Link, for all of his struggles, was still a character that had his fate decided for him by the gods, or Alnuma and the gang, rather than making the choice himself to go on this grand adventure. The next time I'd connect with Link was in direct defiance of that. He'd found himself in a situation and actively decided to embark on his adventure. This Link was on another console, in another game that I'd already played the sequel to. In 2014, I got a Wii U. I'd wanted one for a while, but never had the means to get one until my birthday that year. I got the Skylanders Swap Force edition, which came with a cool color-changing washbuckler, but that's besides the point. Now, I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I actually didn't hate the Wii U. No, not like that! In a similar fashion to my experience with Ocarina of Time, there was a moment early in my Wii U ownership where we were at a store and I was allowed to get one game. And I picked out The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker HD. Now, I know, this Link is the same guy as the one in Phantom Hourglass, but for the purposes of this little segment, we're gonna separate them. Phantom Hourglass Link has already gone through all of the shit that he's about to in Wind Waker, and so they have very different amounts of life experience. I know I played these games out of order, but in my defense, I was a kid and I didn't know any better. So, okay, Wind Waker. It's been a few centuries since Ocarina of Time, or just 1 century, depending on who you ask. In this timeline, yes, there are multiple timelines in Zelda, and I'm not going into that right now. The world is flooded after the events of Ocarina, leaving what we knew as Hyrule underwater, and in its place, the Great Sea connects many different islands. Link in this game lives on Outset Island with his sister and his grandma, and begins the game on his birthday, living a fairly normal life with a tradition honoring the old hero of time by wearing a ceremonial green tunic when boys hit a certain age. The opening of this game is genuinely just small, slice of life stuff, and I love it. The plot kicks in when a big bird shows up and steals his sister. Now, this is the bit that really stuck with me. He decides by himself to go and save her. There's no one forcing him to go after her, and for all he knows, she could be dead. There's no grand pull of fate, just a boy who decides to step up and show up for someone close to him. Of course, there's a shitload of plot that happens and he's actually the hero reincarnated, etc, but the main thing that stuck with me was his choice. Setting him apart from Ocarina of Time and giving context to his choices in Phantom Hourglass, this Link chose to become a hero. Obviously, I didn't save my sister from Big Bird or save the world from Ganondorf. Yet. But this was just another moment where I was shown that choosing my destiny was just as possible as having it laid out in front of me. It was around this time that I started exploring my creative identity, making YouTube videos, which are all deleted now, but more on that in this video, and finally starting to feel at ease with my relocation. The Wind Waker's Link wasn't originally told he was the chosen one or thrust into the story unwillingly. He became the hero because he chose to act, and realizing that I could make choices like that in my own life was wild. Much like Link, I made a choice to start something, and even now, I'm still on that path, which, yeah, whatever, call me cringe, but I think it's cool. Before you go calling me a fake fan, outside of these 3 games, I've beat most of the games in the main series. These are just the versions of Link that I wanted to talk about in this video specifically. The only games that I haven't played in the series are the original 2, Four Swords Adventures and Triforce Heroes, because you try finding friends that are into Zelda in the mid-2010s. Echoes of Wisdom, because I just haven't gotten around to it, and the CDI games, because... yeah. But I don't want to discredit the other Links. For example, Link's Awakening taught me that sometimes the things we hold on to aren't meant to last forever, and that's okay. Skyward Sword taught me that every great journey starts with a leap of faith, even if you don't know where you'll land. Twilight Princess taught me that sometimes to get an imp baddie, you gotta be an emo wolf. Just kidding, it taught me kindness, but like Midlink is an S tier ship and I will not be taking questions. However, the 3 lessons I've learnt from the links I've discussed can be summarized as this. Phantom Hourglass, it's okay to figure it out as you go. Ocarina of Time, you are able to face things head on whether ready or not. Wind Waker, you have the power to choose your destiny. And there's one link that personally, I feel encapsulates all 3 of these aspects and then some. What happens when you're thrust into a world that's destroyed? A destruction that you're told you're destined to undo. With no guiding hand, no prophecy, no companions, just the silence of nature and the choice to keep going. There's a lot of complaints that the story of Breath of the Wild, and to a lesser extent Tears of the Kingdom, is lacking, and while I somewhat see where they're coming from, I'd argue that a large part of the appeal of these game stories is in what they don't tell us. Strangely enough, despite courage not being a prevalent theme in these games, with basically no mention of the Triforce and you being placed in a world where you've already lost, it's the games that, for me, encapsulate the character and the courage of Link the most. You wake up with amnesia, so Link in this game is quite literally a blank slate. After a brief bit of exposition from Zelda, she tells you that you are the light. And like, sure, there's an old dude you can go talk to, but like, it's just a suggestion. You are free to literally just turn and run around and do whatever you want until you choose to go and do the towers and the shrines, and then it's up to you if you want to do the main quest or just hightail it to Ganon and get the whole thing over with. It's a setup that perfectly mirrors all 3 of the aspects that I love about the other Links I mentioned in this video. You're thrust into a world and have to figure it out as you go, told you're the chosen one, and yet you still have a choice as to how much you engage with that. Or, you know, you can just cook rocks, like, it's your call. When Breath of the Wild dropped, I was entering the final years of my time in high school. I'd just gone through the fated disintegration of the high school friend group and was, once again, feeling lonely. But more importantly than teenage loneliness, the Nintendo Switch released. Oh, what? I can't use the same joke again? Okay, my bad. I threw myself into the game. Every minute of spare time I had, I was just exploring, completing shrines, and it took me about 50 or 60 hours before I went to visit Impa and get on with the main quest. The silence of the world, save for the odd piano note or, oh god, no! I find reflects Link's own silence, allowing us to project ourselves and our struggles onto him more than any other Link. And over the game, as you uncover his memories and interact with the descendants of his friends, you learn more about who Link was. Not just as a blank slate, but as a fully realized character. A silent, stoic, courageous hero who would lay down his life for the ones that he cares about. And that's cool as fuck, because you have this guy who's effectively learned what it means to be a hero, rediscovering that he was one all along, and now the person that he used to be is the one he naturally became, and it's so fun. Also, he cooks rocks. And then you have Tears of the Kingdom, which features the same guy who's now fully confident in who he is, he's got Zelda by his side, and he meets Matthew Mercer and gets his arm ripped off and is just like, yep, cool, here we go again. And he chooses once more to pick up that sword and take that leap and go run around, and then you have the choice to either do the main quest or gun it straight for Old Mate Ganondorf, and you can still cook rocks! Tears of the Kingdom released at a time in my life where I was pretty sure of what I wanted to do, being fresh out of uni and determined to get cracking with my career, but there was still that little voice in the back of my head that was mumbling, what if? Tears of the Kingdom is less about picking up the pieces and more about seeing what sticks, if that makes sense. The fusion mechanic, Ultra Hand, all of it is about taking what's worked previously and giving it another shot with newfound knowledge and skills. If that isn't a metaphor for growth, I don't know what is. And that's exactly what I did with YouTube and what I do with each of my videos, and basically how I try and approach each day. I take what worked, apply the things I've learned, and see what sticks. Look man, it's a metaphor. I think. My point here, and the moral of the story, is that the courage displayed by Link can be applied to our everyday lives, whether we're thrust into a situation against our will, outright told that we have to do something, or make the choice to take action ourselves. We don't need to fight demons or save princesses or cook rocks to be a hero. It's about having the courage to stand up, to show up, and to back ourselves, to say, yes, I can do this, no matter what. Sometimes, the most courageous thing we can do is face our fears. Hey, I'm calling to book a dentist appointment? Yeah, check up and a clean.
Hey!